The anime begins with a dark and disturbing flashback, a scene full of tension and despair, in which we can see a group of witches being cruelly hanged by a group of humans. The witches, with expressions of terror and resignation, struggle in vain as the ropes tighten around their necks, their feet kick in the air, and the crowd of humans, with cold and hard faces, watch impassively. The atmosphere is charged with an oppressive darkness, and the screams of the witches mix with the murmurs of approval and hatred of the humans, creating a picture of intolerance and inhuman brutality. After this shocking introduction, the narrative takes us to meet the protagonist of our story, Adonis. Adonis is a determined young man who, together with his faithful companion Chloe, is making an arduous and exhausting journey through the vast and desolate desert. This journey is not for pleasure, but a desperate search for a safe place where they can live in peace, away from the intolerance and hatred of the humans who relentlessly pursue them. As they make their way through the endless sea of sand, Adonis pulls out a device he created himself, a device that resembles a phone but with far more advanced functions. With skill and familiarity, he accesses the digital map through the device, searching for the best route to continue their journey. However, the tranquility of the journey is abruptly interrupted when a group of men on military hoverbikes rapidly approaches them, their engines roaring and raising clouds of dust in their wake. In response to the imminent threat, Chloe, with quick and determined reflexes, draws her weapon and prepares to defend herself and protect Adonis, launching into the attack with unwavering bravery. On the other hand, in the intricate and opulent halls of the majestic kingdom, a harried-looking man with a worried expression stands before His Majesty, the king of the kingdom. With a mixture of respect and despair, the man informs the sovereign that the kingdom's troops, despite their bravery and dedication, have no chance of success in the battle against the powerful and fearsome high-level witch. This witch, whose name strikes terror into the hearts of those who hear it, relentlessly stalks them using her formidable ice powers. Her abilities are so extraordinary that she can conjure icy tempests and lethal ice sculptures with a simple wave of her hands, leaving the royal troops powerless and defeated. Returning to the protagonist's scene, after an intense and exhausting battle in which they have defeated the enemy soldiers, Adonis cannot hide his frustration and anger. With a disgruntled expression, he expresses his annoyance towards Chloe, as she did not allow him to use the powerful spells he had spent so much time and effort learning. These spells, loaded with magical energy and precision, could have been the key to a quicker and less costly victory in terms of energy and risk. At that precise moment, both of their attention is drawn to a machine that had been frozen during the confrontation. Suddenly, the machine transmits the exact details of its location to an orbiting satellite. After the transmission, a green light turns on, signaling a process in progress, and, almost magically, they are instantly transferred to a distant location, traveling a long distance in the blink of an eye. Back in the imposing kingdom, His Majesty, with an imposing and charismatic presence, addresses his people from the balcony of his castle, giving a speech full of fervor and determination. With passionate and eloquent words, he emboldens his subjects, urging them to rise up against the witches, those beings he considers a threat to his rule and stability. His Majesty not only seeks to awaken courage and strengthen his people, but also to ensure that everyone understands the importance of this fight. Subsequently, His Majesty dedicates a significant part of his speech to singing the praises of modern technology, a series of scientific and mechanical advances that, according to him, represent the future and salvation of the kingdom. Affirming with conviction and certainty, he proclaims that he no longer needs the magic of the witch, those ancient and mysterious powers that in the past had been considered indispensable. With great emphasis, His Majesty announces that the witches will be eradicated definitively, assuring his people that a new dawn without the shadow of dark magic is about to arrive, and that modern technology will lead the kingdom to an era of unprecedented prosperity and security. At that moment, in the midst of a whirlwind of energy and lights, Adonis and Chloe are unexpectedly and suddenly teleported before the crowd that had gathered to hear His Majesty's speech. Surprise and confusion reign in the air, but Adonis, enraged by the situation, tries to attack His Majesty in a fit of rage and desperation. However, the guards, always alert and prepared, quickly stop him and hold him tightly, preventing him from achieving his goal. Then, Chloe, seeing her companion in danger, activates her magic powers and demands with a firm and determined voice that Adonis be released. Unfortunately, at that precise moment, Chloe loses her magic, and His Majesty, with a superior smile, reveals that they possess special machines that can deactivate the magic of witches. His Majesty approaches Chloe with an arrogant and contemptuous attitude, ripping her dress in a sharp movement and slapping her hard, provoking the shocked but curious reaction of the crowd who applaud and try to take photographs of the humiliating spectacle. His Majesty then orders the guards to shoot the boy, Adonis, but Chloe, with tears in her eyes and a lump in her throat, desperately begs for her life to be taken instead of his. His Majesty then points a gun at Chloe's head, while Adonis, desperate and heartbroken, tries to use his spells to save her. Finally, in an act of extreme cruelty, His Majesty shoots Chloe and the guards open fire rapidly, tearing her body apart without mercy. Then, to top off the atrocity, they decapitate Chloe and raise her bloody head among the crowd as a macabre symbol of victory and dominance. 10 years later, in a dark and gloomy prison cell, two chained prisoners, Anna and Doroka, meet amidst the shadows and silence. Anna, with an expression of despondency and hopelessness, questions her fate, wondering what the future holds for them. However, Doroka, trying to cheer her up and give her some comfort, speaks to her with words of encouragement. At that moment, a man arrives, a guard with a stern face and an authoritative voice, who calls out to prisoner 2118. However, Anna, paralyzed by fear and dread, does not get up, fearing what may happen to her. Seeing this, Doroka, with a gesture of determination and courage, exchanges numbers with Anna, offering to go in her place. The guards, unaware of the exchange, take Doroka to a shadowy and secluded place, where they force her to strip and talk about the favors they have done for the oppressed. However, Doroka, displaying incredible determination, bites the guard's finger and steals his phone before quickly fleeing. Then, demonstrating her cunning and skill, Doroka imitates the voice of the facility administrator and orders the voice assistant to program the prisoners to unlock the cells. And so, with ingenuity and bravery, she manages to unlock Adonis's chamber as well. After Adonis breaks free from the cell he was being held captive in, he instantly eliminates the guards guarding him. With quick, precise movements, he gets rid of them without hesitation. Then, without wasting a moment, he heads towards Doroka and breaks the chains holding her prisoner, freeing her from her captivity with a single, forceful blow. Yamato then, aware of the chaos that is breaking out, quickly sends Ike out to report the situation to his superiors. Although Yuki specifically orders him to keep the peace on his mission and avoid any unnecessary confrontation, the situation quickly becomes violent and uncontrollable. Palpol, inspecting the facility's storage rooms, is greatly shocked to see the confiscated items stored away, available to be easily stolen amidst the chaos. It is at this point that the facility's administrator realizes that his voice had been imitated to manipulate the security system. Adonis takes advantage of the confusion and fires a bullet using a spell-cast weapon, and then, using a powerful spell, enlarges it considerably before launching it with precision. Projectile violently impacts a nearby building, causing an explosion that shakes the entire area. However, Ikout, displaying his formidable combat prowess, eliminates all of the facility's prisoners, including Palpol, in a display of lethal skill. Doroka, observing the devastating impact of the projectile on the building, deeply regrets that she was unable to stop Ikout and prevent so much destruction and death. For his part, when Adonis, his face hardened by anger and pain, decides to wreak havoc on humanity, he remembers the last words of Chloe, his beloved companion. These words echo in his mind, fueling his fury and determination. With a dramatic gesture, he summons a giant monster that emerges from the ground with a deafening roar. The creature, of colossal proportions, causes panic and confusion among the military, who, completely unprepared, do not realize what is happening. In an act of brutality, Adonis throws a car into the military installations, causing massive destruction and leaving the soldiers stunned. Yamato, quickly assessing the situation, checks how the kingdom's defenses are holding up, and if His Majesty is aware of what is happening. Confirming that both are down and in critical condition, he declares a state of emergency with a firm and authoritative voice. He prioritizes maintaining Defensive Line 4, the last barrier of defense before the heart of the kingdom, and urgently requests air-ground support from all available aircraft. as well as deploying armored infantrymen to reinforce the defense. Yamato then checks on the dam, a crucial resource for the kingdom's defense, but unfortunately discovers that it is underground and may not be functional due to wear and tear and lack of maintenance. The tanks, in a desperate attempt to stop the monster, fire on the creature, but the missiles are magically redirected to hit the surrounding buildings, causing even more chaos and destruction. Furthermore, the monster, using its immense strength, hurls shattered stones towards the tanks, destroying them and spreading terror among the troops. Adonis, who had spent years snooping and meticulously planning the perfect way to massacre entire nations, now uses his magic to create lethal weapons and spills blood among the masses without mercy. At that moment, the air troops, alerted by the chaos, arrive at Adonis' location and launch a series of missiles at the monster, dealing a devastating blow. However, Adonis, protected by his powerful magic, escapes the attack unscathed, his fury and determination intact. Back at the castle, His Majesty learns of Adonis' escape, but his health is failing. He himself is slowly dying from an incurable disease, a curse that consumes him day after day. Despite his terminal condition, he shows no remorse for the witches he ordered killed, convinced that his actions were necessary for the well-being of his kingdom. Meanwhile, Yamato and the military base, facing increasing pressure from the attack, lose cover of the siege, leaving them vulnerable. Amidst the chaos, Adonis, blinded by rage, strangles a soldier, lifting him into the air with superhuman strength. Daroka, attempting to stop the massacre, steps in and tries to dissuade him, but this only serves to further enrage Adonis. She desperately reminds him that Chloe would not wish for what is occurring, but these words only succeed in getting on Adonis' nerves. Then, in a fit of blind rage, Adonis strangles Daroka as well. She, her voice cracking, reveals at that critical moment that she herself is a witch. Shocked, Adonis bitterly asks her why the witches didn't save Chloe when they had the chance. Daroka, with tears in her eyes, claims that they can resurrect Chloe, offering a small spark of hope. Adonis, though filled with rage, sets her down and holds his sword to her neck, wavering between revenge and the chance to get his partner back. Daroka, tearfully accepting her fate, prepares for the worst. However, in that moment of ultimate tension, Adonis vividly remembers Chloe's death, weakening his resolve and causing him to fall to his knees, overwhelmed by grief and despair. It is in that instant of vulnerability that a sniper, hidden in the shadows, fires a well-aimed shot that hits Daroka, changing the course of events in the blink of an eye. Subsequently, amidst a scene of unprecedented chaos and brutality, the soldiers begin to mercilessly and remorselessly kill the witches, committing acts of extreme violence before the horrified and terrified eyes of Mia and Daroka, who can do nothing but watch helplessly. Desperately urging Daroka to flee and seek refuge with Madame Ophelia, a figure known to offer asylum and protection, Mia makes the painful decision to sacrifice herself. With determination and courage, she steps into the path of the bullets, taking a fatal bullet that knocks her to the ground, sealing her tragic fate. Daroka, in a state of horror and despair, lies dead after being accurately hit by the sniper, who had remained hidden in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the life fades from his body, Adonis, filled with grief and despair, tearfully implores her for a quick and effective way to revive Chloe, his beloved companion. At that fateful moment, the guards descend upon them with inhuman ferocity and unleash a hail of bullets upon Daroka's lifeless body, sealing her fate in brutal and irrevocable fashion. As the guards draw ever closer to Adonis, he, in an act of desperation and magical power, calls upon his magic to form a protective shield around his body, blocking the impending attack. When the guards open fire again, he redirects the bullets with deadly precision and dispatches the guards one by one. The sniper, in his elevated hideout, readies a colossal projectile in the hopes of finishing off Adonis once and for all. However, Adonis, with astonishing skill, intercepts the projectile in midair, enlarges it with his magic, and hurls it back with tremendous force, overpowering the sniper and ending his threat. Meanwhile, Yamato anxiously awaits Yuki's arrival as she attempts to reset the magic nullification device, MND, and nullify the witch's magical powers, a task of utmost importance. Finally arriving at the MND, Yuki encounters resistance from Theta, who urgently informs them of the dire and catastrophic consequences of using the device for humanity. Yamato, with an expression of concern and realization, realizes that even His Majesty, the Supreme Leader, is bearing the brunt of the devastating effects of the radiation emitted by the device. At the same time, Adonis, filled with rage and a thirst for revenge, continues his relentless and merciless assault on the soldiers, displaying superhuman power and determination. Yuki, in a rash and risky decision, rushes to activate the machine, which in turn deactivates Adonis's magical powers, leaving him vulnerable. However, both Yuki and Theta are in critical condition due to the strain and consequences of their actions. Despite the situation, Adonis, without wasting any time, quickly orders his troops to advance and continue the attack. At a critical moment in the battle, a lone and brave soldier approaches Adonis, ready to take him down at any cost. At that instant, a part of the ruined building violently collapses between them, creating a deep crack that separates the combatants from the rest. Seizing the opportunity, the soldier, with a quick and precise blow, cuts off Adonis's head and triumphantly displays it to the remaining troops, who rejoice and celebrate the supposed victory with deafening cheers. Her Majesty, seizing the moment of apparent victory, addresses the assembled crowd and states in an authoritative voice that she should have eliminated Adonis long ago, demonstrating her determination and leadership. In the classroom, Eri watches Her Majesty's speech intently. Her classmates, curious and distrustful, ask her why a human child would support witches, displaying their incomprehension and prejudice. One of them confronts Eri directly, vehemently insisting that he witnessed her actions. But Eri defends herself, stating that her behavior was a natural response to the injustice she witnessed. Later that night, Eri, overwhelmed by the day's events, visits the memorial and lays flowers in honor of her fallen boyfriend, sadly recalling their last moments together before their tragic elopement. However, while at the memorial, she finds herself inexplicably drawn to images of Adonis, a figure who has been on her mind since the confrontation. At that moment, Oz arrives, who casually comments on his reading of Adonis's photographs. He promises not to divulge her secret, assuring her that her trust is safe with him. But the instant she leaves, Oz betrays his promise and contacts the authorities, falsely claiming that Eri is under the influence of terrorists, leading to her immediate and brutal arrest. Elsewhere, in a scene of mystery and confusion, we see Charmy closely examining Adonis's body and, after careful inspection, declares the body to be a fake, adding an unexpected twist to the plot. Then, we see the witches, in their ceremonial robes and arcane gestures, performing a complex and mystical heterophasic transference on Adonis's body, as he, in unspeakable pain, grunts and writhes in suffering. After this intense and agonizing process, Madame Ophelia, with her wise and calm gaze, makes him return to normal through a restorative spell, returning him to his usual form and essence. Next, we have a vivid and emotional flashback to Adonis's death, in which it is revealed that Anne, the brave soldier who killed him in a desperate act, had used a powerful and rare duplication spell to undo his death and keep him alive. Then, in a gesture of solidarity and hope, she takes him to the secret witch nation, a safe and magical haven. When Adonis finally regains consciousness, Madame Ophelia approaches him with gratitude and respect, thanking him deeply for his brave fight on behalf of the witches and showing great gratitude for his sacrifice. After some much-needed and restful time, a compassionate and helpful witch wheel-drives Adonis through moonlit corridors to Madame Ophelia's presence. Upon being firmly questioned, she explains in detail why Chloe, a powerful and significant witch, was cast out of the witch nation. Furthermore, she expresses her deepest wishes and desires to resurrect Chloe, a beloved and essential figure. She also returns to him the symbolic feather of Adonis, a meaningful creation made by Chloe with great care and skill. At that moment, Adonis, with a lost gaze full of wonder, observes the earth through the transparent and magical roof of the place, and Ophelia reveals to him, with a soft and mysterious voice, that they reside on the moon, far from the reach and threat of humans. She shows them the solemn and history-filled tombstones of the witches, each one with a story of bravery and sacrifice. Then, she takes him to meet Mita, a mystical entity, and explains that she is the ancestral and magical tree where witches are created and born. With curiosity and hope, Adonis asks if one of the witches could be Chloe, but Ophelia patiently explains that it will only be possible if Adonis uses his powerful and unique magic to turn her into Chloe. After receiving this revelation, Adonis lies beneath the majestic Mido tree, deeply contemplating what he should do next, and pondering the implications of his future actions. At that crucial moment, Anne arrives, wearing an expression of expectation and defiance, and expects Adonis to show her gratitude, coldly stating that Daroca died sacrificing herself for him. However, Adonis walks away without showing any sympathy or emotion, standing firm and resolute in his path. Anne, in a defiant voice, states that he is a human like any other and does not deserve to be saved, showing her disdain and frustration. Adonis, in a firm and determined voice, states that he was also saved only for the purpose of bringing Chloe back and using her power to dominate humans. He reveals what Daroca confided to him in her final moments, a truth that has deeply marked his soul. Firmly, he states that he will resurrect Chloe and will only follow her orders, even if it means going against the witches and everything they stand for. The following night, under a starry and mystical sky, they begin the ancient and powerful ritual. Adonis, with determination and concentration, casts the necessary spells to write his most precious and nostalgic memories of Chloe into the witch. As he performs the spell, he recalls with deep emotion the nostalgic moments he spent with Chloe and the special and unbreakable bond they shared, a bond that transcends time and reality. Thus, Adonis, with an expression of deep concentration and effort, resurrects Daroca instead of Chloe, something that was not in the original plans. Madame Ophelia, with a face full of dismay and surprise, is visibly disturbed by the fact that Adonis has not resurrected Chloe as had been expected. However, in the midst of this situation, she reveals a disturbing fact. Adonis has a tracking chip embedded in his body, which has allowed the armies of Earth to know his exact location. In an act of desperation and bravery, Adonis crushes the embedded chip, causing an explosion that, as a collateral result, sets fire to the majestic and ancient Mito tree, an entity of vital importance to the witches. Moments after this chaotic event, human soldiers, taking advantage of the situation, begin to teleport to the place. Aria, one of the witches, uses her magic with great skill and effort to spray water on the burning tree, desperately trying to put out the flames and save the tree. However, the soldiers, relentless in their mission, kill her without mercy. Santa Maria, demonstrating her leadership and skill in combat, dresses the witches in battle gear, preparing them all for the inevitable war that breaks out between the witches and the humans. Yamato, a formidable adversary, attacks Adonis in fury, but Adonis, with quick and precise movements, takes his gun and shoots him repeatedly, displaying his prowess until Daroca intervenes to stop the violence. The witches, Crystal Maya, Dakia, and Griana, each with their unique and powerful magical abilities, use their magic to eliminate several enemy soldiers, demonstrating their strength and determination. Madame Ophelia, using even more powerful magic, manages to gather all the soldiers into a magic ball and crushes them, causing a grotesque rain of blood. However, by that time, the second squad of soldiers arrives on the battlefield and, in an act of counterattack, eliminates some of the brave witches who were fighting. On Earth, Dinasma, a concerned and furious leader, questions Theta's carelessness, severely criticizing her for allowing the witches to hijack a satellite and build a secret base on the moon, something that should never have happened under her watch. Yamato, meanwhile, has an emotional and meaningful flashback of himself standing over Yuki's body, who is recovering in a capsule filled with restorative fluid. In this memory, he deeply appreciates her actions and wishes with all his heart for her to recover soon so they can live a happy life together, away from conflict and war. Taking advantage of a moment of distraction, Yamato delivers a quick and powerful punch to Adonis, launching a slash aimed with great precision at him. This slash travels across the open field, but Adonis, with quick reflexes, dodges it. Unfortunately, the attack ends up killing several witches, including the beloved Madame Ophelia and Daroca, causing a great loss to his side. Anna, in a desperate attempt to save her companions, uses duplication magic to cancel her own death, but ends up dying herself in the process, sacrificing herself for the sake of the others. The fight between Adonis and Yamato continues with intensity, both exchanging powerful and strategic attacks. The other witches, seeing the gravity of the situation and the little hope they have left, decide to side with Adonis to ensure his survival. Amidst the chaos, more soldiers arrive, increasing the pressure on the battlefield. Yamato, using the full power of his electrothermal magic, creates a devastating tornado that whips through the battlefield. Then, in a decisive move, he stabs an Adonis in the chest with his sword, causing a serious wound. Adonis, in response, uses Caliburn, his powerful weapon, to cut off Yamato's left arm, leaving him severely injured. The other witches, in a desperate act, beg for mercy at the hands of the soldiers, trying to prevent a greater massacre. At that critical moment, Yamato, despite his injuries, approaches Adonis with his sword, determined to eliminate him once and for all. So, Doroka, using all her power and arcane knowledge, casts a powerful love spell with the aim of stopping Yamato and the other soldiers, causing them to freeze in their positions, completely unable to move. Adonis, with an expression of despair and urgency, fervently urges her to kill him once and for all, but she, with tears in her eyes and a trembling voice, begs Yamato to please put an end to the endless fight between humans and witches. Doroka, with determination and hope, frees him from the magic spell that kept him paralyzed, and he, filled with fury and despair, immediately jumps on her and begins to beat her mercilessly. Despite the brutality of the attack, she, with a broken voice full of supplication, begs him to order his troops to retreat and put an end to the violence. Her request horrifies and stupefies him, but she once again uses the love spell, and this time convinces him to accept her plea for peace. At that very moment, Adonis, with a look of cold determination, pierces her head with his sharp sword, ending her life instantly. Impressed by Doroka's skill and effective use of the love spell, he asks her in a firm and convincing voice to join him in his mission to destroy humanity, proposing a new alliance. Back on Earth, the communications officer informs His Majesty, in a serious and professional tone, that they have no live transmission from the battlefield, but they have the firm belief that their troops will return victorious. His Majesty, filled with joy and relief, rejoices and clings tightly to his queen in gratitude. She, with a warm and pleased smile, congratulates him and assures him that his purpose has been successfully fulfilled. His Majesty, however, begins to show visible signs of being under the influence of a love spell, which leaves him in a trance-like state. Then, the Queen, in a soft but imperative voice, urges him to give up his life definitively, and he obediently jumps off the building without hesitation. The officers, shocked and surprised, report the situation, claiming that there is a witch present, but she cunningly uses the love spell on them as well, forcing them to take their lives without resistance. She now calls herself Mrs. Dorothea, having abandoned her former title of queen. Adonis, determined in his goal, again asks Doroka to join him in his crusade, but she, with firmness and determination, flatly refuses. In response, Adonis attacks and kills all the other soldiers there, as she watches in a mix of horror and fascination. She threatens to use the love spell on him, but he defiantly claims that if she does, he will die soon after anyway. Adonis, in an act of brutality, exterminates all the guards and rips off Yamato's face. He then macabrely places Yamato's skin on his own face and uses Paravoice to send a video communication to Earth, falsely claiming that all witches have been exterminated and that he will return to Earth triumphant. Theta, watching closely, immediately suspects that it is not Yamato who is speaking, but Adonis in disguise. The people on Earth, alarmed and on alert, initiate teleportation to bring Yamato back, but remain with their guns pointed fixedly at the teleportation point, ready to shoot down Adonis should he try to return disguised as Yamato. The soldiers, in a frenzy of gunfire that tears through the quiet of the night, aim fiercely at the exact teleportation point, eagerly awaiting the emergence of Adonis and Doroka in their sights. Each soldier, finger trembling on the trigger, feels the adrenaline coursing through their veins, their eyes fixed on the spot where they expect their targets to appear. However, to their bewilderment and dismay, the darkness of the desert remains undisturbed, showing no signs of their expected appearance, adding to their frustration and anxiety. The tension in the air is palpable, and the silence of the desert seems to mock their efforts. In a desperate attempt to find them, the soldiers impatiently manipulate the teleportation coordinates, their clumsy and hurried movements revealing their desperation. This act sets off a cascade of events that takes them to a vast, desolate desert, where the night spreads its shadows across the burning sand, creating an eerie and surreal scenario. Adonis, driven by his unwavering determination to launch an assault on Rydia, finds himself facing unexpected resistance from Daroka. Daroka's words, filled with good sense and compassion, resonate like an echo of reason amidst the chaos of impending war, trying to penetrate Adonis's stubborn conviction. However, Adonis's resolve remains unwavering, as he vehemently justifies the strategy of using the witches as decoys. His arguments, though logical, unleash a storm of emotions in Daroka's heart, as she wrestles with the morality of sacrificing innocence. Amidst an exchange of words charged with passion and contradiction, Adonis is forced to confront the truth of his own hypocrisy, a truth that hits him with the force of an uncomfortable revelation. The weight of his decisions plunges him into the darkness of the unconscious, his mind filled with doubt and regret. In the distance, a group of bikers approaches, their blurred figures emerging in the gloom of the night, adding a new twist to the uncertainty surrounding the situation. Their shadows, elongated by the dim moonlight, create an aura of mystery and menace. The scene abruptly changes, and Adonis awakens in an unfamiliar room, with the morning light filtering softly through the half-open curtains. The first rays of the sun illuminate the dust, suspended in the air, creating an atmosphere of deceptive calm. A flashback reveals Daroka, desperate in her search for help, turning to the bikers led by Punch, who emerge as a force of resistance against the oppressive government of Rydia. The determination in Daroka's eyes shines with a fierce intensity, and her tireless effort to find allies is manifest in each determined step she takes. Venturing into uncharted territory, Adonis encounters Daroka in the midst of a clandestine gathering, his concern for her safety palpable in every protective gesture and anxious glance. His fear is dispelled, however, by the vibrant spirit of the crowd, whose laughter and chanting fill the air with an infectious energy that fills the air with hope and camaraderie. Thus, the night becomes a lively festivity, with celebration echoing in every corner of the room, an explosion of joy that contrasts with the darkness of their circumstances. The music and sounds of laughter create an atmosphere of togetherness and shared strength. Amidst the festive revelry, a sudden fainting spell envelops everyone present, plunging the celebration into a sudden, ominous silence, as if an invisible hand has snuffed out the life of the party. Adonis, in a gesture of caution and alertness, snatches the gun from one of the bikers, triggering a wave of worry in Daroka, whose attempts to avoid a violent confrontation resonate in the room with a tone of pleading and desperation. Her words, filled with urgency, attempt to calm the situation before it spirals out of control. However, Adonis's words offer momentary peace as he retreats into the darkness of the night, his silhouette fading into the gloom. In the light of the new day, Punch urges Daroka to find Adonis, whose lone figure prepares to face the dangers lurking in the distance. The familiar sound of a motorcycle cuts through the air, and Adonis, initially wary, watches in awe as Daroka rapidly approaches, unable to stop the bike from bearing her towards him in a whirlwind of confusion and determination. As pomp and circumstance fill the air at Dorothea's majestic coronation ceremony, the hearts of the citizens are plunged into sadness upon learning of the loss of His Majesty, who has finally succumbed to the relentless disease that plagued him, taking his life in a tragic twist of fate. Amidst this heartbreaking announcement, those in attendance witness a stunning performance by Dorothea, whose artistic talent unfolds with grace and elegance, overshadowing even the mourning that grips the nation at the time. As the melody soars through the air, a dark shadow looms over the high-level executives who, in a sinister twist, are struck down one by one, plunging the ceremony into chaos and uncertainty. Yet, amidst the tumult, the citizens are quick to yield their loyalty and affection to Dorothea, whose presence inspires hope and confidence in the nation's future. In another corner of the world, Shirusagi embarks on a frantic chase after the footsteps of Adonis, whose cunning has made him elusive to digital trackers. Determined not to be outdone by modern technology, Shirusagi turns to old-school tracking techniques, deploying his wits and skills to decipher his target's whereabouts across the vast canvas of the world. Meanwhile, Adonis and Daroka's bike journey continues, each pedal stroke setting the pace of a tension-laden conversation. Adonis, his gaze fixed on the horizon, warns Daroka that he won't let anything or anyone stand in the way of his goals. His words echo in the air, forming a sense of caution and distrust between them. Curious, Adonis turns to Daroka, questioning why she didn't use her love spell on him upon their first meeting, a gesture that could have paved the way to their joint mission from the start. Fate leads them to a town forgotten by time, where shadows of the past lurk around every corner, shrouding the place in a shroud of mystery and desolation. As they explore the deserted alleys, they stumble upon an abandoned police station whose silent walls seem to whisper secrets of the past. Doroka, her heart pounding, cautiously ventures into the dark interior, her fear palpable with every step. To her horror, they are greeted by the ghostly hologram of a police officer, whose presence adds a new layer of intrigue and danger to their already precarious situation. Determined to unravel the mysteries of the town, Adonis and Doroka continue their exploration, their footsteps echoing on the dusty ground with each advance. Suddenly, the soft sound of a guitar breaks the silence, leading them to a lonely old man playing forgotten melodies from the past. In a revealing conversation, the old man shares the dark secrets that surround the town and its people's resistance to the tide of progress and modern science. Meanwhile, Adonis wanders away from the group, his mind tangled in turbulent, dark thoughts. As Doroka urges compassion and mercy, Adonis stands firm in his resolve, remembering that he is no longer a prisoner of his past, but a man with a clear purpose and a companion at his side. Meanwhile, in a parallel scene, the old man reassures Sasha, the skeleton representing lost love, whose resonant words shed light on the shadows of the past. And so, Adonis and Doroka's journey continues, an odyssey filled with mystery and uncertain destiny. Adonis and Doroka embark on an epic climb towards the majestic city-state of Mamuta, whose tall towers rise imposingly into the sky as eternal guardians of its ancient secrets. Upon their arrival, they are greeted by chaos and discord, a chaotic scene that plunges them into a world of impending danger and mysteries to be uncovered. Amidst the tumult, they witness a humanoid woman in distress, whose delicate figure stands as a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. Without hesitation, Doroka bravely rushes to her aid, but is met with the relentless threat of a deranged robot, whose uncontrolled movements unleash chaos around it. With an act of bravery, Adonis bursts onto the scene, challenging the robot with his unstoppable strength and indomitable determination, thus protecting the helpless woman from her impending fate. Hearing disturbing murmurs emanating from a nearby building, Adonis feels a growing unease that drives him deeper into the darkness, all the while begging Doroka to stay behind for her own safety. Despite her palpable fear, Doroka follows close behind, her loyalty to him acting as a beacon of hope amidst the uncertainty. As they penetrate the shadows of the building, they encounter a surreal scene, a room filled with robots whose erratic movements and disturbing behavior plunge them into a nightmare world. With compassion and determination, Adonis recognizes the suffering of these mechanical beings and, with a gesture of mercy, frees them from their agony by shooting them, thus ending their anguish and suffering. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the night, a duo of agile and cunning ninjas sprint through the streets of Mamuta, their presence like fleeting shadows among the darkness. With skills as sharp as swords and movements as fast as the wind, they challenge the forces of Radia in a deadly showdown, leaving a trail of chaos and destruction in their wake. In an unexpected twist, Adonis unmasks the darkness lurking in the deepest corners of Mamuta, revealing a web of corruption and malice that threatens to devour the city from within. With relentless determination, he investigates the sinister connection between the city and the slave trade, unearthing shocking evidence linking the authorities to the ruthless exploitation of its citizens. He condemns the city for its complicity in a despicable trade that commerce in the dignity and well-being of women, turning them into mere objects to satisfy lascivious and depraved desires. Braving the shadows of evil that loom over Mamuta, Adonis embarks on a heroic quest to free humanoids trapped in the grip of suffering and despair. With prodigious ingenuity and unparalleled skill, he creates an electromagnetic pulse, EMP device designed to grant rest and release to beings trapped in an endless cycle of servitude and pain. Meanwhile, in the shadows, the sisters watch in wonder and distrust, their gaze fixed on Adonis as he plunges deeper into the heart of the conflict. In a moment of reflection and grief, Adonis and Doroka pause to pay tribute to the fallen, building a tomb for Madoa, whose memory lives on in their hearts as a beacon of light amidst the darkness. Amidst the mourning and despair, Adonis questions Doroka's fidelity to the witches, interrogating her decision to follow him despite the shadows darkening her past. Yet, Doroka defends her choice with courage and conviction, arguing that her loyalty to him is an act of love and devotion, a display that even in the darkest of times, there is light and hope guiding their path. Suddenly, amidst the darkness, Shirusagi emerges as a vengeful shadow, his gaze fierce and determined as he faces Adonis in a duel of wills and strength. With every punch and parry, Adonis's fate hangs in the balance as he faces his fiercest opponent to date. In the midst of the epic showdown between Adonis and Doroka, challenging the mysterious Shirusagi in a setting of chaos and despair, the intelligence unit deploys its advanced drones to capture every moment of the fierce battle, recording every movement and gesture with pinpoint precision. Adonis, in his quest to unravel the mystery surrounding the two heads, plunges into a sea of uncertainty and suspicion, searching for answers in a universe of secrets and deceit. Meanwhile, Shirusagi, with calculated coldness, dismisses Adonis's concerns, his voice resonating in the air like a sinister echo of disdain and contempt. Using the floating arms with impressive dexterity, Shirusagi unleashes his fury upon Adonis's bike, reducing it to a twisted pile of scrap metal in a matter of seconds. Tensions reach a peak when Shirusagi orders the two heads to kiss, openly defying Doroka's convictions and prompting an angry protest from the young witch. At the gesture of defiance, Adonis attempts to intervene, but his valiant attempt is quickly squelched by Shirusagi's powerful punch, the impact of which sends him flying through the air with shattering force. Despite his best efforts, Adonis finds himself outmatched by Shirusagi's supernatural prowess, whose agile, swift movements make bullets seem insignificant in comparison. With renewed determination, Adonis turns to ancient magic, summoning a powerful spell in a desperate attempt to turn the tide of battle. However, the cunning Shirusagi deftly dodges the magical attack, gracefully slipping between the deadly bolts with feline agility. Meanwhile, Doroka, determined to aid Adonis in his darkest hour, forges a sword with her own hands and creates a protective suit of armor for her battle partner, preparing to meet the onslaught of the mechanical hands with unwavering bravery. As the mechanical hands launch an attack from all angles, Adonis and Doroka are forced to fight an overwhelming enemy whose numbers seem endless. Although they manage to hold off the initial onslaught, they soon discover that they are facing a threat too great to handle. With a sudden turn of events, Shirusagi launches a barrage of devastating attacks against the duo, whose powerful blows threaten to tear at the very fabric of reality. However, Adonis responds with a formidable spell, forming a massive ball of magical energy around himself in a desperate attempt to hold back the advance of his relentless foe. Despite Doroka's advice to dodge the attack, Adonis bravely faces Shirusagi's fury, defying fate with fierce determination. However, his brave gesture is soon thwarted when Shirusagi breaks free from Adonis's spell and orders his hands to stop the wizard from writing any more spells, leaving him defenseless against the overwhelming power of his enemy. Meanwhile, Doroka, braving danger with unwavering courage, prepares to face Shirusagi directly, armed with a sword forged in the forge of will and determination. However, her valiant attempt to stop Shirusagi is soon thwarted when the ruthless enemy drags her by the hair, suspending her in the air with a cruel and merciless hand. With a sinister turn of events, Shirusagi orders his hands to tear out Adonis's eyes, plunging him into darkness and chaos. Adonis, in a terrifying turn of events, is forced to witness the macabre scene as the mechanical hands tear out Doroka's eyes, her suffering resonating in the air like a heart-wrenching echo of anguish and despair. With a desperate effort, he manages to free himself from the cruel grasp of the mechanical hands, but the damage is already done, and blood begins to pour profusely from Doroka's empty eye sockets, painting a grim picture of horror and desolation. In an act of unspeakable cruelty, Shirusagi stands triumphant, holding Doroka's eyeballs in his hands like macabre trophies, and mercilessly crushes them before the stunned eyes of Adonis, whose anger ignites like a raging flame amidst the darkness. Consumed by untamable fury, he lunges at Shirusagi with fierce determination, ready to avenge the loss of his fallen comrade. At the height of the battle, the confrontation between Adonis and Shirusagi takes on a dizzying intensity, like a whirlwind of unleashed emotions and energy that shakes the foundations of the battlefield. Adonis, imbued with unquenchable fury, charges at Shiruzagi with a determination that defies all obstacles, his agile and precise movements cutting through the air with a deadly elegance that leaves his adversaries speechless and blood running cold at his reckless audacity. However, the cunning Shiruzagi is no slouch in her strategy, displaying her ingenuity by summoning her mechanical arms to charge at Adonis with unrelenting ferocity, each movement of these metallic limbs echoing through the air like the rumble of thunder amidst the tumult of battle, creating an atmosphere charged with tension and danger. In the face of this merciless onslaught, Adonis demonstrates his dexterity and agility by reacting with a deft spin, deploying his magical knowledge to call forth a powerful spell that, with a dazzling flash, reverses the course of the fight, unleashing a storm of magical energy that sweeps across the battlefield with unstoppable force, engulfing the combatants in a tempest of power and chaos. Meanwhile, amidst the pain and despair that consume her, Doroka clings to Adonis with overwhelming longing, tearfully begging him to aid her in achieving her final wish, fervently wishing for a life filled with peace and joy at his side. With the crushing weight of loss and tragedy surrounding them, Adonis is confronted by the resonant echo of Doroka's words, which resonate in his heart with the same intensity as Chloe's dreams and aspirations once did, infusing his resolve with even greater strength and fanning the flames of his determination even further. With a cry of fury and determination, Adonis unleashes all of his magical power to create a gigantic figure that towers over the battlefield, challenging Shiruzagi with a commanding and majestic presence. However, Shiruzagi's resistance is fierce, and his mechanical arms manage to inflict devastating damage upon Adonis's titanic behemoth, threatening to reduce him to rubble. In the heat of unbridled conflict, the chaos and annihilation that accompanies it, Shiruzagi manages to capture Adonis, holding him pinned in front of Doroka with a cruelty so relentless that it sends shivers down the spines of observers, freezing their souls in a moment of unfathomable horror. Executing an agile and accurate movement, he throws him against the wall with overwhelming violence, causing a metal rod to penetrate deep into his chest, a mortal wound that threatens to rob him of his life force in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, in a torrent of emotions that overflow her eyes and wet her cheeks, Doroka tenaciously clings to the spark of hope that glows within her, beseeching Adonis to employ his magic to conjure a miracle that will save them from the uncertain fate that looms over them with an ominous shadow. Her soul seized by unwavering determination, she gathers every fiber of her being into an act of unparalleled bravery, preparing to unleash the spell that could turn the tide of the battle and seal their fate once and for all. With a spectacular burst of dazzling light and energy, Adonis unleashes an avalanche of unstoppable attacks upon Shiruzagi, whose magnificence and might dazzle all present, shaking the very foundations of the battlefield with its shocking, otherworldly radiance. Meanwhile, amidst the heat of battle, Doroka holds on steadfastly to the hope of a better future, as her mind drifts into the painful memories of the dark days when she was ostracized and belittled by those who did not understand the extent of her magical gift. With a supreme effort, Doroka channels all of her magical power into healing Adonis's wounds and granting him renewed strength, infusing him with limitless magical powers that threaten to unleash a storm of destruction upon his enemies. With a war cry, Adonis wields his Quinn Blade with fierce determination, prepared to face Shiruzagi in a final battle that will decide the fate of the world forever. Amidst an atmosphere fraught with tension, a tension so palpable it could almost be cut with a knife, Adonis and Doroka, severely wounded and exhausted to the limit from their previous clashes, find themselves on the brink of total collapse. The desolate landscape of Mamuta, with its barren terrain and perpetually gray sky, contrasts dramatically with the intensity of the recent events that have shaken their lives. The scene opens with Adonis, breathing heavily and trying to recover from his wounds that throb with pain, his body showing the deep scars and marks of the hard battle he had with Shiruzagi, a relentless opponent. Meanwhile, Doroka, still mired in the unbearable physical pain and emotional torment of the recent loss of her eyes, is determined not to be defeated by it. Her thoughts are plagued by vivid, harrowing images of her past life and the recent horrors she has experienced, which replay over and over in her mind. Despite her blindness, Doroka relies on her other senses, which have been sharpened, and her unwavering determination to continue forward, demonstrating admirable resilience. In an act of unparalleled audacity and bravery, Adonis and Doroka decide to seek refuge in an ancient abandoned fortress, whose imposing walls and mysterious structures stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten past, offering a sanctuary from the adversities that surround them. The place, steeped in the heavy burden of time and the shadows of the past, seems like a labyrinth of secrets and mysteries to be uncovered, where every worn stone tells an ancient story and every whisper of the wind carries with it the echo of a lost time. Here, amidst the rubble and desolation that envelops everything, Doroka, despite her blindness, demonstrates her impressive ability to adapt and survive, using her keen cunning and knowledge to find ingenious solutions to help Adonis plot his next strategic move. As they cautiously and carefully prepare for what is to come,